Take notes.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Kolze. I work with Biz Filings. Is everybody familiar with what Biz Filings is, or at least heard of Biz Filings? Okay, so we're on the small business side, and we're separate from CT. We have different processes, different systems, everything. My primary focus is always customer service. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that because on our team we only have one salesperson. It's only one person, and they basically follow up on cold leads that someone started something online and it didn't go anywhere. So they reach out and say, hey, did you want to finish that order? That's all they do. The rest of it is all customer service. Customer service is where the sales are happening now. It's where they're coming from. So now my background and how much I know about this is I actually, before CT days, I've been working for Biz Filings for 4 years now. Before this, I was actually a customer service manager for American Express for a couple of years, and then a couple of years into the sales manager side of it. So I got to see both sides of it. And I noticed that the more effective sales, the long-term customers come from the customer service side. The sales side, you might sell them on that one, but if there's not customer service to back that up and continue that sales process, you're going to lose them. You're going to get that one-time sale and they're going to be gone. So we're going to go into, everybody's kind of familiar with, maybe.
Is it on?
Oh, is it,
Switch on the side. Is that on?
is it green?
No, it's not.
Okay, that would, okay.
So everybody's
Sorry about
familiar
that.
with the basic customer service, pro, solve, present, kind of close. You close during the present side. You can kind of go into, I think some people see it in 5 steps, but I kind of shrink it down to these 3 are the basic ones. And most people are familiar with these ones, they see it all the time. I want to take a closer look at probing. This is where customer service reps have the hardest time because they want to get that call and they want to get off the phone as quickly as possible. So they're like, oh, I can help with that, and they're eager to help, and they don't slow down and ask more questions. Expand out that conversation. Especially for me, who's a very direct person, I'm like, hey, I can help you, and I'll do that for you right now, and then they're off the phone, and oh, wait a minute, they have 3 form qualifications that are bad standing. Now, they called for this one thing, but I could have helped them with 4 or 5 other findings. So we're going to take a closer look at probing. And all of you have clients, whether they're outside of CT or they're your coworkers and you need something. What are your difficulties when you come to like the probing side of things, actually getting all the information out before you start solving and presenting? Anybody have a main difficulty that they have when you start having that conversation?
I know for us in fulfillment, sometimes it's just a very general question that they ask, and it's more helpful if we have like an actual entity to look into to be able to give them all the information they need.
Exactly. They start going too general. They're not being more specific. They start probing, but they don't have any direction why they're doing it. So what I want to look at is the pieces of probing, what that entails. Number 1 is focus, and we're going to look into these a little bit deeper. So we'll go into each one a little bit separately. We're going to look at reminders, and of course, the actual questions themselves. The first 2 pieces that people forget about the most is what makes the questions fall flat, as Katie has noticed. So you're focusing, you're generally on the phone in our line of work, you're generally on the phone. Some of you are lucky enough to be up front. You have a million emails coming in, and you're trying to talk on the phone. You have coworkers walking by. How do you guys focus and block all of that out? Would anybody have an example of what they do too?
Well, for me, I do it in segments. You know, if I'm in email, I don't commit to more than like 10 minutes in the email, and I set that aside and I focus on something else and never look at that email for that more, you know, like another 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do the same thing. You're right. And I tend to segment off time. And when I'm on the phone, I try to not look at that. Because when you're on the phone, it's very easy, especially when the client's going on for a long period of time. to zone out a little bit. So to fix that, I want to focus, I keep notes. Keep notes as they're talking about the different states, and they're going on about their problems. Sometimes they're upset, and you need to let them talk. Just let them talk. Let them tell their problem. Just let them talk and just make notes. They don't have to make sense to you 3 days from now. They just have to make sense to you for those couple minutes you're on the phone. So write down the states. Write down, they might have a licensing issue here or something. Just write down those couple little notes, and it's going to help you. Now, instead of, I have to remember, Pennsylvania is in this thing, well, you wrote it down, now you have a place of reference. So you don't have to worry about trying to keep that in your head and then lose track of the conversation because you're trying to remember that they said Pennsylvania. Now, questions, these are not going to be programming questions. Just quick clarifying questions. If they say something that you don't quite understand, don't hesitate to say, hey, I don't quite understand that, because then otherwise you're sitting there thinking, you're only thinking about, I didn't understand that piece, and you're not hearing them any longer. You're not actively listening any longer. And lastly, turn away from your computer. Unless you have to actually look up information to answer the client to keep them calm and give them information to keep them calm, try to turn away from it. Have a place where your notebook, just your notepad and pen is there, so you can make these few notes so you can go into further going forward. Now, those reminder pieces. Visual aids, something, we have so many sales products, so many products that we have, and we get off the phone and we're like, I didn't mention that. Why didn't I mention it? He said this and I didn't mention it. I have quick little, and TSA decided that my nice having perfect paper was not important, so. So this is just a visual aid. I have a couple other ones if you just want to take a look. There's nothing valuable in here. Something that's a one glance look that I can remember, okay, we're talking about an FQ. Do they have employees? Remembering to ask those questions. It may not come in conversation, but hey, you're form qualifying into Pennsylvania. Are you just doing business there, or are you physically going to have an employee there? But you may not think about that in the mode of the conversation because it didn't come up. But if you have a visual aid that you can quickly look at and get a reminder, hey, this is something I need to look at. Now, it's your reminder, so it can be really big or tiny and fancy, whatever is going to help you remember when you're on the phone that I need to ask about that because we're talking about this. So when you get to that final part, and you're getting those final probing questions, how do you go about forming those questions? I mean, you said probing questions end up being too general. So now we're making notes, we have these final visuals. We're going to use those tools. We're going to follow those probing questions off of those tools. Keep those open-ended. We want them general. We want those first questions to be general. So we want to keep that conversation going. Now you've built a rapport because you've listened to the client, and now you're going to prove that you listen to them, and they're going to gain your trust, and you're going to get their buy-in because you sat and listened to them and you heard them, not just kind of somewhat heard a certain point. You want to start broad. You want to get some of those general questions, like maybe you have a couple more burden, but you kind of know where you want to go after the conversation. You funnel away where you want them to be. It almost becomes the client's idea to do that finally at the end of the conversation. The more the client talks, if they want to talk more, let them talk. Take more notes. The more they talk, the more information you're going to get to sell. And it helps make the presentation close. So it comes back. If you can work on this, then your solve and your presentation are going to be much stronger at the end. So is there any questions about probing?
Okay.